Welcome to our farm. This is Erica Seagraves and Tim Seagraves. We're the owners of Applonia Farms, which is just a little 30-acre farm north of Lawrence. I also have a day job at the Lawrence Public Library, so I agreed to make a little video today about our farm, as well as permaculture, our food forest, and also how to sheet mulch. So we mainly do a lot of chickens. You may have seen our eggs at the Merc, and we also have some pigs, and we have lots of goats to help us mow through these acres, take care of all the poison ivy for us. What we're focusing on today is all of the yummy fruit trees and permaculture techniques that Tim has been using on the farm. I'll let him talk about that.
Yeah, so kind of, permaculture is a big topic in general, so we can't go too deep into that in a short little video, but definitely, check out books that are available at the library once it's reopened, or at local bookstores. There's a lot of great books out there on permaculture. But the general idea is, you're kind of working more with Mother Nature than, trying to always fight it with, chemicals or things like that. So as Erica said, with our goats, we use goats primarily for brush control. We have a lot of poison ivy on the property here, so instead of constantly going out spraying poison ivy, we use the goats to kind of keep that mowed back, and they're making a big difference in a lot of areas. Kind of with permaculture, we're on a 30-acre piece of property here, which is probably a lot different than a lot of you watching, that might have a quarter-acre backyard, but a lot of the principles in permaculture, can be applied to just about any size of property. So kind of one of the core concepts is thinking about zones, and you kind of have zones 0 through 5, with zone 0 being your house. Zone 1 is the immediate area right outside of your house, and you're going to put the things that need the most work in zone 1. So your annual vegetable garden that needs to be weeded and needs to be harvested, you want that close to your house, because if it's if you have a large property, and it's too far away, you're going to let it get away from you. And then, you kind of go from there. You might put a orchard out in zone 2, where, you go to it once a week to kind of do maintenance. And kind of from there, in zone 5, you get all the way out there and it's more kind of native. And, in town, you're not going to probably have a zone 5 for the most part, but some people do that as well. So what we'll take a look at when we go over to the food forest is kind of the concept of companion planting, which permaculture, applies a lot. So instead of, we just want to plant a strawberry patch, you think about how can strawberries help with other things, that you're wanting to grow as well. So you're mixing a lot of different types of fruits, vegetables, and, other kind of resource plants that might kind of help the overall system work. So we'll take a look at that as well. And yeah, should we head over to the food forest?
All right, so this is our fledgling or baby food forest that we've just planted over the last 3 years. We had to deal with the drought the first year, and last year we had to deal with a whole lot of rain. So we're excited to see what this summer is going to bring us.
Yeah, so as you can kind of see behind us, we're basically using, one of the permaculture principles, using the resources you have. Don't let things go to waste. So we've cleared some of the land on our property here to kind of, open up more space for growing things. We have a lot of hedge trees on the property, which are very thorny and horrible to work with. But one of their benefits is, 1, they're good firewood, and 2, they're very rot resistant. So you'll see fence posts. Actually, we have some on the property that supposedly have been here for over 50 years. So that's kind of what we've lined our beds with, is some of the hedge logs from cutting down some of these trees. And we'll talk in a little bit about the concept of sheet mulching, what we did in there. But this kind of particular bed here has several peach trees, some blackberry bushes. We just transplanted some comfrey, which is a dynamic accumulator, with the idea being it has a really long taproot, so it grows, or it pulls nutrients up from deep in the soil, and it grows pretty rapidly. And then you can actually just kind of cut it down throughout the year and throw those leaves on the surface, and those leaves will then decompose and add those nutrients into the upper layers of the soil where you have some of your food growing. So that's kind of the idea of planting these different species together that kind of work together. And we'll take a look at a couple other beds in a little bit that have some different things as well. but you can kind of see some of the orange flags. That's kind of where we've planted different trees. We used the Kansas Forest Service has a great program where you can buy pretty inexpensive trees. You get, I think, 25 native trees for $20 or somewhere in that range. So along the entire back of our food forest, we planted
Chestnut.
Chinese chestnuts and hazelnuts along the entire border, and the idea being that it's kind of like a living hedge, so it'll produce nuts that we can eat at some point, and also hopefully it'll help kind of keep the deer from coming in and browsing through the food forest as well. So kind of one of those multifunction plants. And yeah, so we'll take a look at our other beds down here and then do kind of a quick little sheet mulching demo.
Lily's going to be in the video with us. This is our farm dog. She just loves being around everybody. So she's going to accompany us probably for the rest of the video.
Yeah, so this is one of our other small beds, and this is kind of something maybe you could do in even a backyard, So we kind of have as our primary plant in here is a pear tree that we planted last year. And I'll move out of the way here a little bit so you can see a little more in here. So with the tomato cage there, that's a blackberry plant that we have growing there. We'll be propagating that as well to plant some more additional blackberries around the property. Back there, the big green plant is the comfrey I'd mentioned, and we're kind of dividing that up, and we've taken some of that and planted it up there. So that's that dynamic accumulator that can help draw up nutrients from deep in the soil. It's kind of hard to see, but in here we planted strawberries all along the front of this bed, with the idea that the strawberries are going to be kind of a ground cover. They'll spread and kind of help suppress any weeds that try to come up through our sheet mulching that we did here. We're still fighting back a few of these suckers from the hedge trees that were removed here, but we kind of leave those roots and they'll eventually break down and provide additional food for the microbes in the soil.
We also have rhubarb back there, which I just realized we have our own strawberry rhubarb pie.
That's true. It's a strawberry rhubarb bed here. So, yeah, do you want to talk about the sheet mulching we did over here?
Yeah, so this was planted all just last year. Tim had hurt his hand, and so I did a lot of the planting, and we had already sheet mulched it, but it was mainly a little different from what we'll show you in a second, but it was sheet mulching using more of the leftover hay. Again, with the goats and the pigs, we try to reuse any of the hay that comes out of there. So we did a layer of compost, a layer of hay, another layer of compost, and then I think we also used maybe some boxes and feed sacks like we'll show you, but it was really fun to plant in because it was so lush and it had broken down, created a really rich soil. And so this was about 25 or 50 strawberry plugs, and it was really easy, and they took off, so that soil was really ready for them to start growing right away.
Yeah, so let's go take a look at how to do sheet mulching, and it's a great technique you can use, in your backyard for getting a new garden bed going, whether it's vegetables, flowers, or anything else. So we'll take a look. Okay, so we're getting ready to do a sheet mulching demonstration here, and the basic idea behind sheet mulching is it helps prepare your soil and your ground for planting. So there's a number of reasons why we do it, and I think it's a great idea. So you can kind of see here, we've made our way here, but we've not sheet mulched here, and we've got all sorts of different plants, weeds, grass, all sorts of things growing. And one of the benefits of sheet mulching is it kind of helps smother those plants. So when you're establishing a new garden bed, if you just do it in the middle of your grass, that grass is going to keep growing up for probably years, and you're going to be frustrated pulling it. So the sheet mulching kind of will help kill some of that stuff you want to get rid of. Still a good idea, if you can get a mower in, mow things down, or pull by hand or whatever. But if you do the sheet mulching thick enough, you really don't have to do very much at all. You will still get some things that come up through the sheet mulching, but it's way easier to pull it. It just comes right out of the ground. The other benefit to sheet mulching is we're going to be adding a lot of carbon to the soil, and carbon Helps, hold rainwater, so when it rains, the soil, will soak that in. It'll allow the plants to, have access to water longer, the more carbon that's in the soil. Also helps sequester carbon, not directly from the air, but instead of these, cardboard boxes and feed bags that we're using, going to a recycling place and, all the energy to that, they're actually just going back into the soil, and that carbon will be there for a long time. So so let's take a look at kind of how it works, and there's definitely different ways to do it. This isn't the only way to do it. Some people do a lot more layers than we do, and but kind of we're at a pretty big scale, so we kind of go a little bit on the thinner side. But we'll take a look.
Okay, so the main things that you need are either cardboard boxes, and if the cardboard has any kind of tape on it, you want to remove the tape and the labels as best you can. If you can't get it all off and there's like a little bit of sticker left, that's no big deal. So cardboard boxes work great, and we usually have plenty of those. Also, since we are a farm that sells eggs locally at the Merc, we have a ton of feed bags from feeding like 120 chickens. So we have a lot of feed bags. These work great too. If you happen to have feed bags, you can just take the string off of them. But the string will actually eventually break down too. So if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. And then you will want some compost. So we have a bunch of compost. We have a big compost pile we just pull this from occasionally. And then you also need some mulch to go on top. So the first thing you do is just take the compost and you spread it all out. And you just kind of get a nice base layer there. Then you're going to take either your feed bag or your box. I'll just use the box in this case, and put it down. And then you go with another layer of that compost right back on top of the box. Some to that. Is that an apple tree?
Mm-hmm.
Apple tree there. And then just put your mulch right on top of that. And the mulch, it's actually going to be pretty thick, just to help keep the box down. So I just tend to dump and pile it. And spread it out. Mainly to help cover that compost, keep that box covered up. And then as the rains come and the weather starts helping break down that box, it again adds that nutrients right back to the soil. So I just wanted to show you, this has been here for a little while. So if you pull this back, you can see that that's a bag. See how much it's like starting to break down and add right back into the soil. So, like Tim already said, ideally you would want to do like a thicker layer, but since we're at a large scale, we just do the sprinkles of the compost. Most people want to do about an inch. And you do it in other states and regions, before the wet season to help it break down faster. In Kansas, it's kind of nice because we're pretty wet, so we get a good amount of rain most of the time. You can plant directly into it afterwards. I always feel like Beetlejuice, and like when he's digging in the graveyard through like the model and he's hitting the cardboard, so it's kind of weird when you're planting and it hasn't broken down yet because you're cutting through cardboard. It seems kind of weird, but you can go ahead and do it right away if you want to, or you can wait a season and have it start breaking down like this has. And it's just great to plant in, great to weed because the weeds come right out. Just very helpful for raising your food. All right, well, thank you for visiting. We hope this was helpful and you got some ideas about what you can do in your own garden, in your backyard, or in your own food forest. Remember that there's always tons of ebooks at the library right now, even though we're not open. So check out those ebooks on permaculture, different gardening techniques, and thanks again.
Yep, thanks guys.